I still get comments from Groypers, by the way, that are like upset that I don't like Nick Fuentes. And it's like, I want to tell you guys something. I don't know if I've ever told you guys this before. I had a guy write me an email years ago. Years ago. He had just gotten out of jail. Not out of jail, out of prison. He was a Groyper, and he was at Nick Fuentes' rally on January 6th. And he had just been convicted. He was now a registered felon. He had served, I think it was either 6 months or a full year in prison for January 6th related charges. And his life was ruined. His family was from the Arlington region. They were well off. And he had kind of been ostracized from his entire family. And he couldn't get a job anymore because he was a felon. And he was despondent over his life because being a felon's a big deal. You can't own guns, you can't vote, it follows you around, it impacts every single facet of your life, you can't travel. It's not like he doesn't even have the option to leave the US and go hide in Argentina because they don't want a felon. And he was despondent, and all he wrote me was asking for advice on how because at the time I had been talking about how I believed happiness was a choice. And he's like, how do you choose to be happy, even though you're kind of like this weirdo without much money living in the middle of nowhere by yourself? And it took me like 2 weeks to reply to this guy. I did a thing where I left his email in my inbox and I just like cleared everything else out and just sat there for literally weeks. And eventually I replied, and he confirmed that he got it because he said he didn't expect a reply. And then kind of recently, not too recently, I got another email from him saying that he had moved out of the state. He was kind of in like a super Republican area now. He had moved very far away from his entire family, got a job doing like IT shit at like a low level. And all the guys there were like old boomers that respected him being a convicted felon for January 6th. He said he had gotten a girlfriend. Oh, his girlfriend left him back home because he went to jail and was a January 6th, Trumper, felon, white nationalist, or whatever the fuck. He got a new girlfriend. I think everything was working out for him, and he said he thanked me, which I was very gratified to hear. That's why I absolutely fucking hate Nick Fuentes, because in his audience, in his crowd of people, if you look at the videos of him walking around with a megaphone telling people to go into the Capitol building, they did. And they went to jail. They became felons. They went to prison for 6 months. I think some of them are still in jail, depending on what they did. Because a lot of those people got very heavy sentences for multiple years. And the only person of that crowd, of hundreds of people, because the federal government was so bloodthirsty after January 6th because they had to show that there is no safety in numbers. You can show up in the thousands. You can coordinate an attack on the federal government in the thousands, and they will systematically, for years after the fact, hunt you down, post pictures on social media, encourage people to rat out their own families. They'll find you. They'll drag you to D.C. in handcuffs. They'll extradite you from whatever fucking corner of the country you're in. They'll put you on charge. They'll give you a felony. They'll put you in jail for 6 months. It doesn't matter who you are or where you're at. If you did something to displease the federal government, they're going to come after you. And they went after everybody. And of all the people who were there, of all the people who incited a riot or whatever the fucking charge they got, the one that walked away from it was the guy with the megaphone telling people, his own followers, to go into the Capitol building. That was the guy who caught no charges and is free to walk around. I don't believe it.
Nick, we want Nick. What is happening right now is a spiritual war for the soul of this country. It is a spiritual war between Satan and evil and between us, the children of Jesus Christ. This is a Christian nation, and the Christians in this country demand that we have Christian leaders governing this country. Yeah! And we will no longer accept any less. From now on, I identify not as a Republican. I identify as a Trump supporter.
I don't believe it for a second. he flipped, he turned, and he takes marching orders from the government now. And since then, even I remember when Nick was a younger performer, and he was, because he's 26 now, he started like his Trump stuff like when he was 17. If you compare pre-2020 Nick Fuentes to post-2020 Nick Fuentes, his demeanor is completely different. Because back in the day, he was a very happy-go-lucky kind of guy. He was always laughing at shit. He always had like this like unaffable demeanor and stuff, and it was endearing. Admittedly, I didn't like a lot about him, but I still understood his appeal. After 2020, he's fucking dour. He's completely like self-enrichment driven. He ran with fucking Kanye West, a black guy. He bumps elbows with the fucking rapist Tate brothers. He had that Ali Akbar pedophile around and knew that he was a pedophile and knew he was into young white boys and still let him around people like Smiley and was more pissed at Smiley for getting molested than he was at Ali Akbar for trying to sending him dick pics and getting dick pics from him and shit. And it's like, it's so fucking obvious that this is a guy who hates his fucking life, is a miserable cunt, is fucking possessed by the balls by the DOJ. Probably can't leave where he's at. Probably he's stuck in Chicago. That's where they have him. And he would leave and do something more meaningful with his life and his money, but he's stuck because they won't let him go because he's an asset. And it frustrates me to no end to see him successful and in his operations against populist movements in the U.S. And it makes me extremely sad to see more young people, more young boys, jump on his movement and repeat his lines, even though it's going to fuck up his life, just like that one kid. That he took advice from Nick Fuentes, and now he's going to lose, a bunch of support and a lot of things that he had going for him because he trusted Nick Fuentes. And I feel kind of powerless to stop that, to like help people who I know are going to get fucked over by trusting this federal fucking asset, this traitor who has committed treason against his own people, his own fucking supporter base. Never mind his movements or his race or his country or whatever. He's committed the worst thing you could possibly fucking do. He sold out his own people, the people that still fucking listen to him and have listened to him for years. And it disgusts me, and it really frustrates me how like incapable I am of remedying the situation in any way, shape, or form.